Hey guys, welcome back. This is another Decktech coming at you from Low Life Plays. This one I've been playing for pretty much as soon as Aavatar came out and I could get my hands on Kyoshi. I've just been loving this deck. It's been so much fun to just ramp to absurd amounts and get her out and then just start doing crazy things. Earthbending is a super wild mechanic, and in this deck we are going to abuse it heavily. So let's just jump into this, right? So Aavatar Kyoshi, if you don't know, she's a 5 and 3 green, so 8 CMC, legendary human avatar. During your turn, Aavatar Kyoshi has hexproof, which is pretty cool. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 8, and then most importantly, then untap that land. So her Earthbending is a little bit different. So you Earthbend it, and then it gives target land you control becomes a 0/0 with haste. That's still a land. Put 8 +1/+1 counters on it, and then when it dies or is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped. So super fun. And then she is a 6/6, so still pretty beefy on her own right. So what are we gonna do? This huge section in the beginning is we just need to ramp. Like that is, we can get her out pretty consistently by turn 5, sometimes even turn 4 if things are really going our way. But turn 5, that's really where Kyoshi starts to come out. So we're going to use Dance of the Tumbleweeds. I like this one because if you draw it later in the game, it's not a dead card. It can make a huge elemental because we are going to ramp so many lands. But this one, just either 2 and 1, you can search for a basic, put it into the battlefield, and it's not tapped, which is great. And then you can pay 2 and 3, or everything, and make an XX, or X is the number of lands you control. So really nice there. Classic Rampant Growth, just 2, get a land. New Rampant Growth, right? Search your library for a basic, put it into battlefield, tap, shuffle. Nature's Lore, go get a forest. Doesn't have to be tapped, which is nice. Explore, love the reprint, super thematic, and just play an additional land, draw a card. Classic Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, where you go get a land, put 1 into play, or you get 2 lands, 1 into play, 1 into your hand. Harrow and Entish Restoration really come in to be really interesting here because when we're earthbending our lands, we can then sacrifice that and not lose the land, and then just super ramp. But we have a lot of other ways we'd prefer to sacrifice our lands, but either way, we don't mind sacking a land to just double ramp. Super nice. These are more classic, for the 4-cost 2 land get kind of thing. So we're running 2 of those with Skyshroud Claim and Ranger's Path. You can interchange these with really any of the 4-costs if you wanted to run Explosive Vegetation or anything. I was trying that out here, but I opted to go more creature ramp, cut some of the spell ramp, get more creature ramp, so I have some more early game protection before Kyoshi comes down. Open the Way, I'm a huge proponent of this card. I love it. It's always just skyrockets you ahead in resources. As soon as you get 5 mana, and you can just ramp out like crazy. But even in the worst case scenario, you could just pay 2 into the X, and then it's just like one of those other types of effects we were just looking at, like Ranger's Path. But I love this card. It really has a lot of potential to just go wild with lands. Earthbender's Ascension, so when it comes in, you Earthbend 2, awesome, and then you get to go get a basic, put it into play, and then Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you put a quest counter, and then if it has 4 or more quest counters, you start building +1/+1 counters on it, but also giving it Trample until end of turn. Trample enabling in this list is super important because we have a bunch of 8/8s, but it is hard to get through. And people know what you're doing, so they're going to keep blockers up. So having lots of different ways to enable Trample to get through, super relevant and important. So let's get into some artifact ramp. We are going to be running Soul Ring, just, does really good stuff. Emerald Medallion. We're going to run the Earth Crystal as just a more expensive Emerald Medallion with also that +1/+1 counters on it. Massive, right? So when we go to Earthbend, if you put +1/+1 counters, would be put on a creature you control, double it, which is just so crazy in this list. Throne of Eldraine, we're a monocolor list that's just trying to ramp into crazy big things. So this is not only ramp for us, but it also can be card draw too, which is really nice. So really like that. I am running the Great Henge just because it's, as soon as you Earthbend or as soon as you get Kyoshi out, it just gets discounted so heavily. So you're planning on that. So you'll always be able to get this down for 2 or 3, and then it's just an excellent source of everything we want to do with card draw, life gain, ramping, +1/+1 counters. Really great. All right, now let's get into our creature-based ramp. So we're going to be running a few different mana dorks. So I chose Delighted Halfling just for the uncounterable side to make sure Kyoshi comes down. because it's going to be pretty telegraphed. You know, you're going to be ramping pretty hard, and then you want to just jam her, because we do run protection spells and things like that, and she's hexproof on our turn anyway, so you're always at least going to get the first Earthbend, and having an 8/8, or even if you have any of those counter doublers, it can really just get you into a good state. So we're going to run Delighted Halfling, classic green stuff with Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves. I had another just dork here. You know, I think it was Birds of Paradise, but I pulled a Badgermore Cub. I would not buy this for how crazy expensive it is at the moment. It is incredible. So if you have it and you want to play Kyoshi, you know, it's definitely awesome. You know, so when it enters, Earthbend 1, and then whenever you tap any of your Earthbent creatures or any of your dorks, whenever you tap a creature for mana, you add an additional green. So it is very, very strong. Steve, we're going to sack him, get lands. Fanatic of Ronus, amazing in this list. You know, we do have a lot of creatures that are 4, I mean, let alone Kyoshi and any of the things that get Earthbent. But the fact that you can eternalize it and just get it back, it can be very, very helpful in skyrocketing us into the 8 mana we need to cast our big Aavatar. Springbloom Druid, just, I had a 3rd Harrow style effect, and it was on a spell, so I just swapped it out for a creature, right? So I just wanted more creatures to block in the early game. Same thing here with Wood Elves, just another easy ramp spell. Loot, just, he's really in here for the playing additional lands. That's a really big upside, but I do like the fact that if you are stagnant in your hand and maybe you just have a bunch of lands, because you're running 40 lands, and sometimes you'll draw a little bit too many, so we do have this option of paying 6 and just getting to wheel that way and just kind of try and get something off the top. And it can be pretty effective. We don't, and that's all. This was also a synergy why I cut some of the spells and put more creature-based ramp in, just to have more synergy with loot. Clifftop Lookout just comes in. It's a reaching blocker, which is really, really excellent. And it just reveals cards from the top until you get any land, which can be very nice because we are running some really powerful, just generic lands that we would love to turn into creatures. So having the chance of getting that instead of just tutoring a basic is super nice. Earth King, he comes in, brings a 4/4, which is excellent for us just to really get some early game out there. But the fact that he can just start ramping like crazy, you know, whenever 1 or more creatures you control power 4 or greater attack, search your library for up to that many basic lands. I mean, this can just go wild. And he brings his own 4/4. So he is really, really excellent for what we want to do. Goreclaw, I'm testing Goreclaw. I mean, I think it gives everything we want to do. It gives a cost reduction, which is great. It's a nice 4/3 body for 4. And then whenever it attacks, each creature with 4 or greater gets +1/+1, which is nice, but the trample. So another trample enabler. And that's what I've been trying to just add more and more and more of, is just better ways to get trample, and this just has so much in one creature. So I've really liked it so far in the few times I've got to play with it. Oracle of Moldiah, it's just excellent for 40 land, land style decks where you're just going to run an exuberant amount of lands just to make sure you can ramp and hit all those and have targets for all these ramp spells. So we're running this, lets you play lands from the top. That's just super excellent for us. We are going to run these as our protection spells. We're running Tamiyo Safekeeping. These are just really, I don't find people trying to kill Kyoshi a lot of the time. They do kill her sometimes, but really the biggest threat is going to be this 16/16 or sometimes like these massive land creatures that you have that they have to just get off the board. And it's nice because they're earthbent, so they're wasting removal, but they have to or they might die. So Tamiyo Safekeeping, gives hexproof, indestructible, really nice. The life gain's pretty cool too. Tyvar's Stand. This one can be used both as a protection or just to ram through damage, because we are going to be ramping a lot. So we could definitely have some synergy here, so I really like this one. Heroic Intervention, just pretty classic green protection. Origin of Metal Bending. This one is removal and protection, so I like that aspect of it. And then we have Inspiring Call. A lot of our creatures are going to have +1/+1 counters on it, so it's card draw, protection, so it has multi-use for whatever you might need to do it. You got to refill your hand, cool, you can give your board indestructible, swing at somebody who you didn't have good attacks at, or you can just use it as protection. And then I threw Skullspore Nexus in here for protection in this section because of its recycling when people do kill those lands, or they do kill Kyoshi, or there is a massive board wipe, and now, you're just culminating all that power of all your 8/8s into one massive fungus dinosaur. And then the ability to double target creature's power is also just really nice, and it comes down very, very cheap, because as soon as you Earthbend, or as soon as you have Kyoshi out, this is 2 mana, so it's very, very easy to deploy. This is also in the realm of protection and in between +1/+1 counters and protection suite here, just because this allows us to just build a wide board and then go tall, or build a tall board. Then, you know, it really helps us when our creatures are going to be killed, because they are going to be killed because they are huge, massive threats. And whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had any counters on it, they go to the Ozolith. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if it has any counters, you can remove all of them to put them on target creatures. So you can make one thing just absolutely huge. Really, really fun. Branching Evolution, it's the double, right? It's if you would put a counter, you put twice that many on a creature instead. Same thing with Loading Zone. Edge of Eternities, loved that set. It had a lot of bangers just to throw into, had a lot of stuff to go in 99. And this is one of those, right? If one or more counters would be put onto a creature, spacecraft or planet, we don't really care about anything except the creature part. Twice that many of each of those kinds are put on it instead. And it has warp, so if you need to get it out there immediately, it doesn't have to deploy for 4 and then Kyoshi and then this and then that. You can just get it out right when you need it, and that's why I really like the warp mechanic. Toph, the Blind Bandit. So we're running so many +1/+1 counters that she just gets huge. So when she comes in, she already Earthbends too, which is nice. But the ability that she has, that her power is equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on lands you control. Even if you just have 1 with Kyoshi's Earthbend, that's hers is 2 and then 8, so she's a 10/3. Pretty massive. She can get so huge so fast. Earth Kingdom General, just really nice synergy. Gets the Earthbent, which is cool, but really, whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature, you may gain that much life. You can only do this once each turn, but really, really crazy life gain. I mean, with Kyoshi's Trigger, you can gain 8 life, or if you have any of those token doublers, you can just really get back into the game if you are low. So he can really come out and save some stuff. Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi, it's just Earthbent as an instant, right? You put 9 +1/+1 counters on target land, and it becomes a legendary elemental with haste. So this one's just super fun and flavorful. It can combo pretty well with Inkmoth Nexus, because Inkmoth Nexus can come in, and then you can animate it with its 9 +1/+1 counters on it, which can be really fun. Bristly Bill, I know he's wildly expensive, so you could swap this out for just another ramp piece or another dork, but really he's in here just for the great +1/+1 synergy that he has, to be able to double them and to be able to just start distributing them earlier, because we are just going to be ramping so many lands. Tireless Provisioner, here for treasures. That's really the biggest thing. The food is also a nice option, but really it's here to come down and then just help us get to Kyoshi faster, and the treasures really can skyrocket that. We're going to be running a lot of lands, so I'm running Scoot Swarm. You don't have to run Scoot Swarm. It's a lot to upkeep, but it's just so synergistic. It can really stall out, and it also can be a huge removal magnet before you drop Kyoshi, which is really a big reason why I chose to run it. So that way, I drop this threat, and then while I'm ramping all these lands and getting this, then people either wrath before I do Kyoshi, or they point some of their targeted removal over here before I start going for the real threats that I want to deploy. So now we're going to get into the Trample plan. So we've ran through some that are synergistic in other ways. These ones are really in here because of the specific benefits they give us to punch through the opponent's defense. So Kodama, the West Tree, it's a reach blocker, which is excellent for us. We don't really have a ton of that, but modified creatures you control have Trample, and then whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can go get a basic, which is pretty nice, just icing on the cake. But I'd run a 3-mana Reacher that gives Trample regardless. Garrick's Uprising can come down late, draws cards, can help us draw cards later, but really just an enchantment, so it's more historically hard to remove, and it's just here to just guarantee that we can get Trample, because oftentimes when you play this deck a few times with people regularly, you're going to need to have 2 sources of this Trample to close the game, because if you have 1, they'll remove it. So being able to have a few different deployable ones really helps out. Nylea, God of the Hunt, really excellent Trample enabler just because it's indestructible, so it is harder to remove. And then if you do get to Devotion, which is pretty easy, I mean, with this and just Kyoshi, you're at 4 already, but having the ability to also dump all this mana that you are ramping into to just close out the game can be really nice too. We're going to run Badger Mole, we're running the Cub, we're running Badger Mole. And this one Earthbends, and then it gives +1/+1 counter creatures Trample. And then we're going to be running Overwhelming Stampede. This one is definitely the best finisher that we have, just because it can often give minimum +8/+8 in Trample. which can be great, or sometimes it can just get absolutely huge, and then it can just be, it's over. Kamal, Fist of Kroza. So this one's a flex slot at the moment. I'm testing him out. I like that he can make lands into creatures, which is fun, but really he's in here for his 5 cost. Creatures you control get +3/+3 in Trample. Because we ramp so hard, you could just drop Kamal and then just pump or even double pump and then just punch through. So I've really enjoyed him. Now we're going to have these huge power toughness creatures, so we're just going to be, a lot of our card draw is just going to be huge chunks of cards. And I mean, I haven't had any issues with it. I mean, if you get low and then you draw like 10 cards, it typically sets you up pretty good. So we're using cards like Life's Legacy. As an additional cost, sack a creature, draw cards equal to its power. You sack the 8 power creature land that you create with Kyoshi, and then just draw a ton of cards, refill your hand. The land just comes back tapped, so you're not losing anything. Same thing with Terra Symbiosis. Most insane card draw in this list for sure. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn, but I mean, you can get close to decking yourself if every turn you're drawing 8. Pretty wild. Seer Sundial. This one just lets you have a landfall trigger whenever a land enters under your control. You can pay 2, draw a card. Pretty nice. I chose this over the other one, the Horn of Greed, because this one specifically says enters, not play, which can be really nice because a lot of our lands are just going to be entering through ramping sources and not just through casting, or not casting, but playing a bunch of lands. So, greater good, amazing card draw on our list. You know, we'll sack our creature, draw 8, discard 3. Really nice. Legend of Kyoshi. I mean, even if it didn't do great, you'd probably still throw it in here just for the flavor of it all, but it mixes so well with everything we want to do. It draws cards, it earthbends, which is just wild to me, and then you exile it and it flips over to another wild Kyoshi that you can have access to. Rishkar's Expertise, same thing. This one we don't have to sack the creature, which is nice. You just get to draw a ton of cards, and then you can cast a spell. So you can, oftentimes this is draw 8, ramp 2 more lands. And then this is if we've gotten, this is just one of those, if all else has failed and our board is wiped out and all we're left with is a ton of lands, we can Majestic Genesis and just get back into the game. Most of the time we've ramped so hard that even if they kill Kyoshi, we can just recast her and just keep doing our land shenanigans. But I thought it'd be nice to have this just silver bullet in the list, so that way you could just do this. Or if you really need to go over the top, you have something that you could hope to find. All right, now let's get into our land section, arguably one of the most important parts of what we're trying to do. So Castle Garenbrig, I've really come to love just for its ability to put 4 into it and then tap and add 6, and you can only use that to cast creature spells, but pretty nice just ramp there. We're going to run Ba Sing Se, just Earthbend on a land can be nice, and as long as you have a basic, it doesn't come in tapped. Now here are some of the lands this is the big target of lands we would like to animate ideally. So we have Lotus Field. It's a hexproof land, so hexproof creature can just be really nice to dodge removal. Secret Tunnel, definitely the all-star game-ending kind of creature land. Just this land can't be blocked, which is just wild to me, and it's just amazing in this list. You just animate it, it's an 8/8, you can just start swinging and hitting face. Darksteel Citadel, just an indestructible land, which can just be animated to an 8/8 indestructible. We have this for a vigilant creature, and then we have our Cactus Preserve. So this one is in here, it's a little blurry. So Cactus Preserve is really in here for its ability to, until end of turn, it becomes an XX with reach, where X is the greatest mana value among your commanders and is still a land. So you can animate this, put 8 +1/+1 counters on it, and then pay 3 and have it get +8 again, because it will just be an 8/8 with 8 +1/+1 counters on it. So it can just be absolutely massive. The only downside to it is that it does come into play tapped, which I don't really enjoy, but outside of that, I think that avenue of it is worth it enough to just be such a crazy animator. And then we do run Rogue's Passage, just to get stuff through. If we can't get our Trample enablers, that can be nice enablement there. And then our most easy win con here is Inkmoth Nexus, right? So basically you just pay 1, this land becomes a 1/1 Phyrexian Blink Moth artifact creature with flying and infect, and it's still a land. If you Awaken Vichugazi on it, that's just game over. It gives it 9. But normally you're just going to animate this with, or if you have any of your +1/+1 counter benefits, then this can also one-shot somebody pretty quickly because Kyoshi gives your land creature haste and untaps it. So you can often keep Inkmoth Nexus back and then just use it as a one-shot, and it can really just catch people off guard. If it comes in and then she animates it, it gets double the counter, so it's a 16 and then it's a 17 when you animate it, and then you just swing through, just knock somebody out. And then the rest is going to be just forests. You know, we're running a ton of forests because all of our fetches, all of our ramp style that's going to be on spells, on creatures, is going to go get basics. So we have to have just a ton of basic forests. But you could definitely probably run a few more utility lands that have really fun, interesting effects when they become creatures. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for Aavatar Kyoshi. I've had an absolute blast playing this list, and it always catches people off guard just because, you know, it's an 8-mana commander, and then you get there pretty quick. Pretty consistently, you get to 8 fast, and then she comes down and starts causing so many problems. So yeah, if you like this, and you like these videos, just comment, like, subscribe if you like it that much. But outside of that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!